It's 7:30 in the evening across India. I'm Amritpal Singh, live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India Global, bringing you the day's big stories from across India and the world. My colleague Benji Hire is joining me from Washington, D.C. Benji, good to see you.
Very good morning. 10 a.m. here in Washington, 4 in the afternoon in Central Europe. Coming up in the next 30 minutes, a tale of two stories stateside as the presidential race hots up amid a backdrop of economic despair on Wall Street. And the latest from two conflicts still raging on in Israel and Ukraine. First, back to you.
The headlines: mass unrest forces Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina to resign and flee the country. Army chief says interim government will be put in place soon. India advises its citizens to avoid going to Bangladesh. Amid widening conflict in West Asia, Iran says it does not want the regional escalation but must punish Israel in the wake of the killing of Hamas chief in Tehran. US sends additional military assets into West Asia. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer to hold an emergency meeting with police chiefs after days of violent anti-immigration protests intensify. A day after deadly clashes across Bangladesh killed nearly 100 people, the country's Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina has resigned and she's left the country following her resignation. This was confirmed by Bangladesh Army Chief Waqar-uz-Zaman. Addressing a press conference, the Bangladeshi Army Chief informed the media that an interim government will be formed soon.
Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina has resigned. An interim government to be formed to look at the state of affairs. Keep patience, give us some time. We will be able to find solution to all the problems confronting the country. Please don't take the path of confrontation and return to the path of peace. It is taking a lot of toll on our country in terms of economy and the finances, which have gone down. People are dying, and let me assure you, I will take all the responsibility and a solution will be found.
লোকজন মারা যাচ্ছে তো এগুলো থেকে আপনারা বিরত হন এবং আমাদের সাহায্য করেন।
And authorities have closed the Hazrat Shah Jalal International Airport in Dhaka for 6 hours. Television visuals showed thousands of people pouring into the streets of capital Dhaka in jubilation and shouting slogans. Thousands have also stormed Hasina's official residence, shouting slogans, pumping fists and showing victory signs. Bangladesh has been engulfed by protests and violence that began last month after student groups demanded scrapping of a controversial quota system in government jobs. That escalated into a campaign to seek the ouster of Hasina, who has been in power for about more than 15 years and most recently swept to a fourth straight term in January this year. And in view of the ongoing developments in Bangladesh, India's Ministry of External Affairs has advised Indian nationals to exercise extreme caution and restrict their movement. The Ministry of External Affairs said that all Indian nationals presently in Bangladesh are advised to exercise extreme caution, restrict movements and remain in contact with High Commission of India in Dhaka through the following emergency numbers that are plus 880-195-838-367. These numbers we are flashing on your screens as well. 880-195-838-3680. The other number is 880-193-740-0591. I repeat, the numbers are plus 880-195-838-3679. The other number is plus 880-195-838-3680 and plus 880-193-740-0591. 0591. These are the numbers, these three numbers being flashed on your screens are the emergency numbers of the Indian High Commission in Bangladesh, where Indian nationals can get in touch with our High Commission in case of any emergency. And reacting to recent developments in Bangladesh, India's former High Commissioner to Bangladesh, Dr. Harshvardhan Shringla, indicated involvement of foreign powers that are inimical to Bangladesh's interests.
I would also look at it as an economic factor, and clearly, of course, as we have always said, opportunists, whether it's the opposition BNP or it's the Jamaat-e-Islami, which is the radical, pro-Pakistan Islamist grouping that is very active on the streets. They have joined the protest and they have actually brought in that violence into the protest. You cannot rule out the involvement of foreign powers who are inimical to Bangladesh's interests and frankly to our security interests also.
And I'm joined by my colleague Ramesh Ramachandran from the studio on the latest. Ramesh, what should we make of the former Foreign Secretary's comments? He served in Bangladesh as well, where he says that foreign powers there is an involvement of foreign powers that are inimical to Bangladesh's interests.
Indeed, Amrit, Ambassador Shringla made a point there, and he is not incorrect. Because the anti-quota protests have over the past week or so morphed or transformed into anti-government protests targeting in particular the government of Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. And to that extent, Ambassador Shringla is correct when he says that the movement was infiltrated by forces inimical to Bangladesh's interests and by extension India's as well. Why? Because the opposition BNP, the Bangladesh Nationalist Party, and its affiliates, including the Jamaat-e-Islami and its cadres, had infiltrated this campaign or movement led by students to put pressure on the government of Sheikh Hasina, and that put paid to any hopes of an early resolution of the protracted conflict. But that's it, Amrit. Very quickly, if I can bring our viewers up to speed with two news lines coming in from Dhaka as we speak. One, the students themselves have said on Bangladesh television that they will get back to the army and the government, whatever is in place in Dhaka, with a framework for the formation of an interim government going forward. What that framework is, we don't know yet, but they say we'll come to the government with a framework for an interim government to put in place, number one. Number two, the army chief has said that he will himself sit down with the students and teachers to thrash out a consensus on the way forward. For his part, as we've been reporting here on DD India, Amrit, the army chief categorically telling students directly in so many words, please go back to where you came from, go back to schools, colleges, homes, stop the violence and trust the army to do the right thing, which is by extension one, form an interim government for which consultations will take place with the president of Bangladesh, number one. And number two, that he says he will also talk to all shades of political opinion going forward so that an interim government can be put in place as early as possible. So ironically, Amrit, Awami League of Sheikh Hasina, which was formed in the 50s as a students' movement, today has been done in by exactly that, a students' movement that ousted Sheikh Hasina from power.
Okay, Ramesh, there are disturbing news also coming in from Bangladesh. Some temples and homes of minority Hindus attacked. Are you hearing anything on that? And should that be a worrying development for the Indian establishment?
Absolutely, without doubt, Amrit, the fate or the safety of refugees and minorities in particular in Bangladesh, including Hindu minorities, is of immediate concern to New Delhi. And speculation is that some of them might try to make their way out of Bangladesh in the days or hours ahead and enter India, for which preparations are already being made as we speak. The porous border, remember, between Bangladesh and India is vulnerable to other forces also who might want to infiltrate or intrude into Indian territory. So that also is being taken care of as we speak. Reports suggest that the border security force, the paramilitary force guarding the international frontier of India is already had put in place measures to deal with such contingencies in going forward. But that said, the reports about the attack on Hindu places of worship in Bangladesh is not new, and this is of immediate and serious concern to New Delhi because this might further worsen the situation for minorities and Hindu minorities at that in particular.
All right, that's a worrying development. We'll have to see how things develop there, how soon law and order is restored, which the army chief has promised to do and in fact appealed to the protesters as well, and how the process of formation of the interim government takes place. Many thanks, Ramesh Ramachandran, for joining us for the moment. And US Vice President Kamala Harris will visit Philadelphia tomorrow with her new running mate. She still has to announce her new running mate. She's interviewed some possible candidates. My colleague Benji Haya is in Washington to give us more on this and other stories making the headlines around the world. Over to you, Benji.
That's right. Vice President Kamala Harris trying to grab back the news agenda, given the fact that markets seem to be dominating the headlines in the United States this morning. The presidential candidate announcing her running mate any time ahead of her first public appearance with her vice presidential nominee. That'll come on Tuesday in Philadelphia in the state of Pennsylvania. She, as you say, has been meeting with some potential nominees over the weekend, either in person or remotely. Those contenders including, but not exclusive to, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, Arizona Senator Mark Kelly, and Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro. The current vice president, alongside her new running mate when announced, will then hit 7 cities in 5 days to hold a series of rallies. Remember, the presidential election is in November. Meanwhile, the United States and its allies are actively seeking to de-escalate tensions in the Middle East as Iran threatens to retaliate for the assassination of Hamas's political leader Ismail Haniyeh, which it blames on Israel. President Joe Biden has called a meeting with his national security team on Monday where they'll assess the latest developments in the region. The White House also announcing that President Biden will engage in a discussion with King Abdullah of Jordan again on Monday. Well, our correspondent in Israel, Sarah Coates, has been across this story for us. Sarah, what are you hearing from the military where you are?
Hello there, Benji. We have heard from the head of Israel's Northern Command. He's just come out to say that the military is prepared for offensive in all aspects. Now, also the Defence Minister, Yoav Gallant, he's spoken just a short while ago. He said that the Air Force is prepared to shift to attack mode. Now, this comes amid reports in US media that potentially this attack by Iran on Israel could take place as early as Monday. Monday, of course, being today, while there is a report in Hebrew media citing sources very close to the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu as saying that Israel may launch a counter-strike, a preemptive strike on Iran if it has airtight evidence that Tehran is planning on attacking Israel. So certainly a very worrying situation here on the ground. As we go to air, Benji, there has been no change in the directive from the military's home front command, but it is assuring people that if this does change, it will inform people very, very quickly. But what we are seeing on the ground are many airlines cancelling flights in and out of Tel Aviv, also, of course, Beirut, and many embassies preparing their staff and also the family members of their staff to potentially evacuate. So certainly a very worrying time on the ground with diplomacy in overdrive. Benji.
Sarah, thank you. Sarah Coates for us with the latest in Tel Aviv in Israel. Elsewhere, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer says violent protesters will face the full force of the criminal justice system after an anti-immigration mob clashed with police outside a hotel that's used to house asylum seekers. Rioters hurled objects at officers attempting to protect the hotel. This amidst a wave of unrest that has been sweeping across Britain in past days in light of a wave of misinformation about a mass stabbing in the English sea town of Southport last week. The ongoing conflict between Russia and Ukraine has seen a surge of violence over the weekend, with Ukrainian attacks leaving 14 people injured, including several of them at a market bombing in the Russian-occupied Kherson region. In a separate incident, Ukrainian forces fired a dozen rockets at Luhansk, that's a city in the northeastern part of Ukraine, also now controlled by Russian forces. Russia's defense managing to intercept 8 of them. Meanwhile, President Volodymyr Zelensky of Ukraine announced on Sunday that his pilots have started flying American-made F-16 fighter jets for operations within his country. That marks a significant milestone in the nation's defence against Russia's invasion. We'll have more on all those stories in coming days. Stay with us here on DD India. For now, though, that's it from me here in Washington. Back to you in the studio.
Thank you, Benji, for all those reports. Thank you. And still to come on DD India Global, Tamil Nadu fishermen meet Indian Foreign Minister S. Jaishankar, petition him about the regular attacks on them by Sri Lankan Navy.
We have with us shooter Arjun Babuta. You ended 4th in this edition of Paris Games. What do you have to say about your performance?
I just finished 4th and it is very close to the medal pace, but overall I try my best and I'm proud of it. I belong to a middle class family and it was very challenging for us to get all these expensive equipments and to maintain those expenses. I'm very thankful to TOPS for all this. And it played a big role in my success.
You're watching DD India Global. I'm Amritpal Singh. India's President Draupadi Murmu has reached Fiji on the first leg of a 6-day, 3-nation tour. She was welcomed by Fiji's Deputy Prime Minister. On her arrival in Nadu, President Murmu was welcomed as the guest of honor in the Fijian way with a message, Bula Venaka. President Murmu will meet her Fijian counterpart and the Prime Minister and will also address Fiji's parliament. She will also visit the Siva Subramania Swami Temple, a symbol of cultural ties between the two countries. The President is further scheduled to visit New Zealand and Democratic Republic of Timor-Leste. The South Indian state of Tamil Nadu's Bharatiya Janata Party President K. Annamalai met with India's Minister for External Affairs Dr. S. Jaishankar along with fishermen representatives in New Delhi on Monday. The meet was to petition Jaishankar about the regular attacks on Indian fishermen from Tamil Nadu by Sri Lankan Navy in mid-sea. Recently, a fisherman was killed while the boat in which he was fishing near the international maritime boundary line was subject to attack by the Sri Lankan Navy. While the deceased is identified as Malai Sami, the 2 other fishermen of the same boat, Muthu Maniandi and Mukaya, were arrested by the Sri Lankan Navy and have recently returned to the Indian authorities.
We will definitely, our union government and High Commission has always worked. In fact, just now we got 20 fishermen released, and even those people in that boat, 2 of them have been immediately returned. The body has also been brought back. So I told them we will work hard. I listened to them, and we will certainly see if we can have a meeting of the Fishermen's Association, also a meeting of the Joint Working Group.
August 5th, 2024 marks the 5th anniversary of the abrogation of Article 370 of the Constitution of India. Taking to social media site X, Prime Minister Narendra Modi highlighted big developments in the region since the past 5 years. Prime Minister also marked the changes brought in the Union territories after the abrogation of Article 370. PM Modi assured the government's support to the people of the Union territories of Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh. On this historic day in 2019, the government took away the special status of Jammu and Kashmir. With abrogation came security, dignity and opportunity for women, youth, the backward, tribal and marginalized communities who were deprived of the fruits of development. And let's now take a look at other stories making news around the world. Cambodia broke ground on Monday on a China-funded canal to link capital Phnom Penh to the sea. The $1.7 billion, 111 miles Funan-Teco Canal is expected to lower the cost of shipping goods to the country's deep-sea port, Sihanoukville. Protesters marched across Mogadishu's Lido beach on Monday to condemn the 2nd of August attack. A blast at a beach restaurant on Friday had killed 37 civilians, while 212 people were injured. This was the second most deadliest attack since the twin car bombs blast in 2022. Indonesian police and customs have arrested 2 people allegedly linked to a marijuana smuggling case on Monday. The drugs were en route from Thailand to the United Kingdom through Indonesia. Around 113 kg of marijuana worth $1.5 million was seized during the operation. And now to all the updates from the Paris Olympics. Indian shuttler Lakshya Sen falls short of the historic men's singles medal. Sen lost 21-13, 16-21, 11-21 against Lee Zijia of Malaysia in the men's singles bronze medal match at the Paris Olympics. Lee Zijia lost the first game but mounted a comeback to comfortably take the next 2 games. Sen, despite the defeat, registered India's best finish in the men's singles badminton at the Olympic Games. And Indian wrestler Nisha Dhaya upstaged Ukraine's Tatiana Sova in the women's 68 kg freestyle round of 16 wrestling bout at the Paris Olympics on Monday. Dhaya, making her Olympic debut, won 6-4 at the Champ de Mars Arena and will now grapple in the quarterfinal. Sova led 4-1 after the first period. However, Dhaya scored 5 points in the second to turn the contest around. Nisha Dhaya will take on the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, Pak Soe-gum, in the last 8. And Manu Bhaker, who won 2 medals in this Olympics, has been chosen to be India's flag bearer for the closing ceremony at the Paris Olympics. Indian Olympic Association President P.T. Usha said that Bhaker will represent India as the women's flag bearer during the event. India's men's flag bearer for the ceremony is yet to be confirmed. The closing ceremony of the Paris Olympics will take place on the 11th of August. Bhaker opened India's medal tally in the ongoing Olympics after she secured 3rd place in the women's individual 10-meter air pistol event. Following that, Sarabjot Singh and Bhaker won the bronze medal in the 10-meter air pistol mixed team event. Hanoi youth are becoming passionate about singing Zam, a traditional Vietnamese folk music. Despite its many ups and downs, Sam has been turned into a professional entertainment activity at Vietnam's capital city. Take a look. And that's it then in this edition of DD India Live. But do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India's mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Amritpal Singh, and for my entire team here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India Global.